Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tsukasa from Tokyo. Actually, this is my second time to be a part of the speaker faculty here. I'm so excited to be here again, but I'm actually a little bit nervous to speak in front of this international audience because I'm basically all educated in Japan and I know very little about the building and construction market internationally. But fortunately, today I speak about the case studies, so hopefully I can leave some examples for you to take away. So today's my topic is about the VR, AR, metaversing to enhance the customer experience. But before I go into the main part, let me recapture this. Why are they actually important for us? I think they are important for the stakeholders who are keeping on requiring better visualization what to decide. And they are important for the project because they help complete the project model lifecycle. And they will be important for future because I think the metaverse can extend the common data environment. So let me explain about those topics, but first of all, let me introduce about myself. I'm Tsukasa Ishizawa, I'm a PhD, and I'm registered architect in Japan, and I'm lead AP, and I'm a group lead from computational design group, Takenaka Corporation, and I'm a project associate professor in the University of Tokyo, and I'm a YouTuber. I have a channel with a little bit more than 1,000 subscribers, and where I'm talking about the tips and tricks for the modeling software, and a little bit about the life of architects. So, about Takenaka. Actually, Takenaka Corporation is one of the top 5 general contractors in Japan. And on top of the corporate scale, it will be characterized by its history, whose origin can date back to the year of 1610. And after that, the company transformed into the modern corporate style. And since then, we were engaged with a number of the landmark projects like Tokyo Tower, Tokyo Dome, and some cultural facilities and mixed complex. So basically, we do everything around the buildings, but we do the civil work, so we are fully engaged with the building projects. Actually, we are design, build, contractor. So in fact, 70% of Takenaka's projects are design and build. So simply it means that in our Takenaka project, first our design team start working usually from the pre-design phase, and we run the rough cost estimation at the end of BD phase, and this is when our construction team embarks and start talking about the design also. So sometimes they come to me and advise that, hey, maybe you will need to have some more clearance from the neighbor building because we need to do the scaffolding. So it's not really competing. So it will give us some good constraint for the design thinking. And once it's go harmoniously, then we can deliver the project on time within the budget. This is possible in Japan mainly because of its cultural background. So this picture is of the middle 13th century, and the people circled at the center of the picture is a master builder called Torio. And this Torio is said to master 5 different skills in one personality, namely the building design, estimation, carpentry work, and drawing and detailing. Means that in Japan, it was quite a norm to come to a single personality to talk about the building project, regardless of its design about the construction. And the separated concept of architects and builder was actually imported at the middle of 19th century when Japan was in the process of the modernization. But somewhat that process was fusioned into this existing Japanese culture. And this is how this modern Japanese general contractor was formed. Okay, so let's start talking about this VR AR thing. So you will use either the head-mount display or the mobile device like the smartphone or tablet. But in the virtual reality, you'll be fully presented within the digital environment. So you will have the immersive experience in the digital built environment. Whereas in the augmented reality, still you see the actual real world and some information like the geometry or attribute will be overlaid into the real world object. So on the side, the design building will be popping up in front of you, and in Pokemon Go, the Pikachu will appear in front of you. So that's how the augmented reality works. And in the mixed reality, so it somehow goes beyond. So in this explanation, it will allow you to do the manipulation or interaction with the object, whether it's digital or real. But simply, this mixed reality is a fusion of these two technologies. And overall, we might call them as an extended reality. And today, we mostly focus on the VR, AR things. Looking at the hardware market growth, and in terms of the shipment, it became 4 times in the last 5 years. So it's gaining the popularity so rapidly. And one more important aspect is about the building information modeling. And actually, I'm a BIM guy, and I'm not supposed to be here to talk about the VR, AR thing, but it is a very good opportunity for me. And so this is an interesting survey done by Dodge Data and Analytics. This says that BIM users compared to the non-BIM users has a great advancement and advantage in terms of the adoption of design intelligence tool like VR, AR, or reality capture like LiDAR, and the model devices like wearables and the digital twins. So now the BIM is an infrastructure to adopt the further digital transformation. So that is why we started focusing on taking the project model directly into the extended reality presentation. So we collaborated with the Unity specialists, and we internally developed some kind of an add-on that allows to import the 3D models, which is sometimes from Revit, sometimes from ArchiCAD or Rhino or SketchUp, doesn't matter, just we take the model into the VR or AR presentation. One more important aspect is that this environment allows the telepresence or teleexistence. So in the demo on the left-hand side, you see that different architects from different cities are joining into the same environment to talk about the design simultaneously. So this is what we can do thanks to this kind of digital technology. One more thing, so we can visualize what basically invisible. So in this example, we are visualizing the airflow in the arrow or bubble, or we simulate the direct sunlight intake. And sometimes we can do very simple acoustic reflection simulation, and those are so essential for the environmental performances and building sustainability. So these are so helpful to align the understanding of the stakeholders for the decision making. So let's go into the examples. The first one is about the SunA headquarters office. The building overall shape looks boxy, but actually the internal view is a little bit complex. This is because this office is for the steel fabricator located just next to the steel shop. So they wanted to have this office as the technology showcase. So we designed the building with the slanted wall and the Voronoi-like volumes, and which was quite difficult to understand in the conventional forms. So just we had the CEO and we gave a head-mount display to him, and he tried to manipulate the design to understand what's going to be built. Another project is about Chuo University. So this building was characterized by the huge atrium space at the center. And now you see the rooftop design changed. And actually, the design of rooftop and material selection has a great impact to the building sustainability. So we prepared several design options, and we ran this environmental simulation in advance. And we took those design options and simulation results into the VR environment for the client to choose the specific design options to see the impact of the thermal comfort. So on the video, you will see the flying arrows, and actually this shows the airflow with the temperature. So once they change the design, it will be reflected back to the arrows, and they will see the differences. So they don't actually feel, but they are visualized for the thermal comfort. This is AR project, and this is the use case for the inspection. This building is called EQ House for Mercedes, and they wanted to have this finely detailed building, and this was possible because of the well-made design model. And we took this model for the AR inspection. So because the building has quite complicated shape, we wanted to simplify the thing for the auditor to focus on. So you can see at the right bottom picture that this is highlighting the sprinkler heads with the dimensions, so that for any people that once they wear a head mount display, they can focus on to the items that they need to inspect. So rather adding the things to the real world, this is to filter down the information to focus on to the things that we really need to discuss. One more thing, this is the POC project for the device called Atom by XYZ Reality. So this is an AR device, but this is integrated with a smart safety helmet called Smart Safety Helmet. And this obviously allows the on-site AR, and this is durable, and this provides a hands-free environment for the site 4 person to see the items to be built. For example, on top you see the MEP surfaces, and the middle, and you see the drywall installation. And in terms of the accuracy, there's a comparison at the bottom. It's quite satisfactory. Only the thing is about the affordability, that at the moment we can't afford this device for every site persons. But if it's getting the popularity, then we can step forward to the paperless construction. So it's going advancing, but I have some complaints about the use of the models. So these pictures are from my past project where I was playing a role for the BIM managers. I might say that the people, including the clients, corporate members, were so collaborative for completing the project model. But actually how they use in the project was always like that. So they prepare the projector or monitor, and they show up the model, and they manipulate it for 3 to 5 minutes, and they come back to the paper agenda and paper drawing and keep on talking inside this. Nothing wrong with this conventional working style, but it obviously looked like something additional or something top up to the existing workflow. So once we illustrate it, it's gonna be like this. So once it goes very successfully, the building information model can spare some effort to create a 2D drawings or quantity takeoff, but sometimes that might be the best. And of course, we can derive out from the model in terms of the VR AR presentation, but still it remains as a position of an additional tool set to the conventional things. So one day I started thinking like this. In last 10 years, or even in last 3 to 4 years, we got so familiarized to have a meeting online, like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, whatever you name it. And but still today, we prefer to have the meeting face-to-face basis inside a physical meeting room, which is completely fine. But those spaces, whether it's virtual or real, is or has nothing to do with the spaces we are going to create. Of course, it's not built yet. But how about virtually? It's somewhat there already because you somewhat designed something. Then why don't we host the meeting inside the project model and have the project activity all the time inside the project environment? The reason why I started to think like this was because I have some bitter experience that in one project, the client required me to update the models to the cloud environment every week. I did so. But what I found that nobody opened the model for a week and almost forever. So what was my effort overall? Yeah, so client wanted to make sure the things are updated and it's client job, I know, but I wasn't so satisfactory about those kind of things. Then the idea was the clients needs to be more exposed to the model we've created. And I know that sometimes it's too much to ask the client to open up the model to manipulate around and see inside because they have their own job. Then why don't we originally have the meeting inside the digital venue that we've already designed? And you can be inside or above or beneath or nearby or wherever you want. Then we start talking about the project. And the things will be digitally recorded and time-stamped and sometimes transcribed and tagged and stored in the common data environment. It's gonna be possible. Then the concept will be like this. Originally, we imagined the project metaverse space and we locate the project model inside and all the project model and project activity will be inside this environment. So I named this concept as the metaverse as common data environment. And actually, I'm going to publish a paper in the coming academic conference. So if you want to know more about this concept, please find it in the conference procedure. So now is the time to talk about the metaverse. Yeah. And Wikipedia says that in the colloquial usage, a metaverse is a network of 3D virtual worlds focused on the social connection. Yes, VR, ARs are the essential technology to enable this kind of virtual environment experiences. But in the metaverse, we are more focusing on the communication, interaction, transaction happening inside this digital workspace. This is very useful framework called Digital Twins Native Continuum. So we, as a building specialist, tend to think that the metaverse is all about the digital twins, which corresponds to the real world, but actually it's not. We can imagine the worlds like Fortnite, world like the Minecraft, world like Super Mario, whatever. But this digital native space is all possible and people can communicate, interact inside those spaces. And actually this is a spectrum and we can imagine the blend of these two different elements. So this allows us to think about the new potential or possibility of the data we already have. But let's start from a very straightforward example. This is our first metaverse project called Takenaka Dome Reunion. And this is our Takenaka dormitory. And this is our design and build project. And this is exclusively for the company's first years. And now we have the design model. So we took it to the AR environment and we invited the company people to exchange their latest changes. And this was quite actively done because due to the pandemic, the people's behavior was quite restricted. But we realized that making a conversation inside some spaces related to some building environment is quite valuable. So we extended a little bit. So this is something different. So recently we expanded our office a little bit, but this was not a design build, this is actually a retrofit. So we didn't have the detailed design model, but instead what we did is that we took the 360 video device called Ricoh Theta, and we walk around the building and we took it to the simple metaverse platform called Buralit. And we call the people and they join to this virtual tour. So still, this is a tour along this pre-recorded video, but still they can spot and they can focus on the specific point they want to see because it's 360 video. And we can communicate over voice chat and text chat or even with the stickers, just like the social networking tools. So this activates the conversation about the built environment. So why don't we all the time take this 360 video tool and share the building experiences with our teammates? Then it will activate the discussion about what to be built and what's a good, what bad for the designs. It's gonna be useful. And if it's useful for the internal people, it's gonna be true for the rest of us. Then this is the project proposal for a property called Chochikugyo. This Chochikugyo was originally designed in 1928 by an ex-Takenaka architect, and this is a housing property. And recently, Takenaka obtained this facility, and now it's designated as a national important cultural property. Because this property is located in very quiet residential area near Kyoto City, it's so challenging to host a big group of visitors to be inside here physically. But digitally, it's gonna be possible. So just we scan around the building and we open up the space for the virtual building tour, then it's gonna be meaningful for those who are interested. And even we can assign one building specialist to do the building tour and answer to the Q&As. And if it makes sense and we can find a way to monetize this tiny business, then we can think about a better management for this cultural heritage. This is the last example, and this is tiny one. Well, you can see a girl inside, and this is my 4-year daughter. And she loves arts and crafts, and she always creates something new and bring it to me. And first, I did some pinups so happily, but the space is limited anyway. So I took it to the box, but nothing happens after all. So I imagined that what if I can do the quick scan of the drawing or works, and I can store it in the digital environment, and I can design a tiny virtual museum, and I can locate her works inside. Then I can do anything. I can open up the rooftop, I can enlarge a picture, and I can invite a group of people, and even I can invite a TV crew like this. So this costs very little, but this is actually expandable. So this is not only for the children, but maybe for everybody who loves the art. And if this makes sense, Takenaka will be so happy to design the digital native museum space. Actually, I talked about this idea to a friend of mine. He said, oh, interesting, but nothing happened after all. So if you find it interesting, please talk to me. I will take it so serious. Just joking. Like this. So we've seen 4 different metaverse examples. The first 2 were under the concept called metaverse as a tool. So we were actually focusing on the communication happening inside the metaverse. So metaverse was just a digital venue to host those communications. Whereas in the last 2 examples, it will be aligned to this metaverse as a target. So there will be something that they may want to visit because there might be something that only there you can see. So this is quite useful framework again to think about our purpose to look at the metaverse possibility. One more thing, it reminds me about this famous cartoon that the client asks you to create a swings and somewhat your engineer design something on the left-hand side, but actually overall what you needed is just like on the right. So we, as the building specialist again, tend to think that the model deliverables should be always like something on the left. And it's so detailed, nicely coordinated. And this is a building actually. But for the layperson, for example, to my mother, so how my mother recognizes about the building is that here's a door, here's a window, here's a wall, that's it. And nothing wrong with that. And in most cases, this is good enough. Then we can expand our way of thinking just a little bit. So we could make use of the project model, but sometimes just a reality capture or even just 360 photo will be good enough to provoke some communication over the built environment. Then it's going to be more cheaper, more feasible, and more activated for the people to communicate. But I know that there's doubts and risks. Some company answered investing in the metaverse is risky because that the trend will fade, or there will be any issues around cybersecurity, will be. And the digital life takes over real life. It will more make sense to me if it's gonna be rephrased like this. Stop the metaverse, save the real world. But it might be true. The metaverse VR AR thing look playful and somewhat it's on the bars and somewhat it's in terms of the expectation, it's a little bit overheated. And in the world around you, there's tons of issues to be solved. And some people may question that, is that the really thing to be prioritized in the real life? But I might say that maybe it is. VR, AR, and metaverse help save the architecture and construction way it's used to preserve the building conditions, or if it's used for education, training, or knowledge sharing, or if it contributes to creating the better city data, or it's used to the smart city where it serves for the better citizens' life. At the first time, our company, including myself, expect metaverse to make profit. And that is the top expectation among the companies. But we soon after realized that the expected amount of the actual revenue that we can expect from the metaverse is not directly comparable to the one from our main domain. Then why don't we think about making the better ecosystem or better communication channel for the building lovers to create a better communication among the building specialists or even the building lovers. Maybe that's one potential role of this kind of environments. So this is a conclusion takeaways. The VR AR things will be important for the stakeholders because better visualization matters. Sometimes the cinematic realism is important, but just a visualization for the rest of us will just work nice. And they are important for the projects because metaverse can become a platform. But we all know that not everybody is a metaverse lover. So it has to be comfortable, it has to be inclusive, yet non-geeky environment is needed. At the last, for future, it's not just for fun, but for fans. So they think about what we can enjoy only there. Thank you so much.